All right, everyone. I have AJ here, and she is one of our awesome coaches. And today we're going to talk about what we do when someone comes to us. They have their network marketing business. They have worked with a bunch of their friends and family. They really want to grow to make $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in income. And they come to us with, they would never declare this publicly, right? I don't know who I'm going to have for my next 10, 20 customers. Do you run into this at all in your coaching practice?
Yeah. And then sometimes it's, I feel stuck and we don't know exactly why we're stuck until we dig into what's going on underneath is I ran out of people to actually call or go or talk to. Yeah. So that comes up.
Yeah.
As you all know.
I think that it's like frowned upon to actually utter those words publicly. Yeah. And what I want to do today is, first of all, just share if you feel that way, if you feel stuck, or if you feel like you're grasping at who am I would love to enroll 10 people a month or 5 people a month. Where do I even start? And then you get into overwhelm, that is a normal feeling. I felt that way even at Emerge, and I don't know if you don't have to admit if you've ever felt that way. So if that's the case, it's okay. What I want to do is I want to bring AJ on. She coaches on this every day, that you could share, if I came to you with that problem, how would you work me through it?
Yeah, thank you. So it's really interesting when you say people start, I think we can get into that shame cycle too, because what is the basics, going back to the basics, is nothing to be shamed about. That is so important. And I work with people at all levels, people that are just starting, people in the middle, and people at the very, very top of their company. And every single one of those types of people, at some point, we have to talk about going back to the basics, because different levels present different basics, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to a basic of, I need to sit down and actually make a list, is such an important thing to constantly be going back to and adding to. And I think that's where a lot of people get to the place where they feel, oh, I forgot about that one basic. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. It happens to everybody. So if we're not constantly adding to that list and constantly networking, always be networking, then we run out of people to call. But what if you haven't networked in a while and all of a sudden you're in that place where you're feeling like, I am stuck. I don't even know where to go and start networking. So what we do there, what I like to work with people, and I have two people that are coming to mind because I just worked with them recently. So the first thing is I like to start in the place of their zone of joy, their zone of genius, and their strengths, because we get a lot more, we have a lot more happiness when we try and have new people, adding new people into our business and our life, if we work within our own strength set. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, I have one client come into my mind that is, she's totally extroverted, and like her zone of genius is face to face. She's one of those types of people that if you are in a setting where if she has that thought process in her mind, she can go into a grocery store or her nail salon or the post office, and starting there with what she likes to do. Like, we had to actually go through that. Do you want to work? Do you want to start prospecting people online? Do you want to start adding to your list through groups or on the phone? And she's like, what do you love? She's like, I love seeing people. I love being out of my house and like actually connecting with people like that. I said, well, let's start there. Let's think of all the places that you go to that you're connecting with people. That's where we start. And so we started making a list from there. And so she had the idea of, okay, I'm going to get into my flow. I'm going to visit 2 people a day. I'm going to tell them what I do. I'm going to bring them some samples and a card and ask them if they're open to learning more. And it worked so well for her. So she's in this flow now of adding people. And then we got the list all organized, like going back to where are we going to put these people and make sure we have consistent follow-up. And so now now she's starting to add back to her list and starting to basically like regrow a whole nother leg. And so she's really excited about that. But that's working within her genius, right? She's an extrovert.
Yeah. And how many appointments did she set pretty much right away?
She had 3 people come to her public class this last week. So
that's awesome. Now, as you share that, here are the notes I wrote down. So we start in the zone of genius. We want to make sure that people are operating in their strengths. This person loved being with people, extroverted, loves meeting new people. And as you were sharing this whole story of just doing that, my palms were getting sweaty. And I was like panicking and trying to pretend I wasn't. So what would you do,
right,
if someone felt that way?
Yeah, and I would actually say that probably majority of people I work with that isn't their zone of genius. And it's interesting to even have somebody that's in a place that has extrovert, right? Some people think, well, extroverts can't run out of people. But when you're an extrovert that's already has like 3,000 people on your team, yeah, you have to go back to those basics. But for the other side of the introvert or somebody that's just not in their style, because
I'm an extrovert, but I can't. I just wrote a post. It's probably already live by the time this goes, but I classify myself as a shy extrovert. So I get energy from people, but meeting new people is terrifying to me. Yeah. I'm really glad you're not a new person right now. Be awkward.
I know. I'm probably an awkward extrovert. I would say that. Like, hey.
Like for me, it's either or hey. Like there's no.
Yeah.
So weird.
I know. And meeting people sometimes can be really, like, I love meeting people, but you have to almost, I remember at one point thinking like, I need a list of questions to start a conversation. And I definitely have that, trust me, because sometimes I just want to be like, hey, tell me your life story. And that's a little much for some people, right?
Not all people, but some people. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
The people that are watching or listening right now are like, where's that list of questions? So how about we do this? How about we'll go through the other example and let's come back to a list of pickup lines. If you are an awkward person and you have to meet new people, because I'm sure between the two of us, we come up with a few good ones.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, whether you're an awkward extrovert or an introvert, it's good to have a list of questions, right? Okay, so introverts.
Yeah.
Introverts, when it comes to introverts, we leverage the superpower. Now, most introverts really love to listen to people, and that's where their strength lies, is they're not necessarily like, hey, look at me. But they're very good at listening. So with most introverts, we start with, and actually I'll give you a specific example because this is something that just came up with somebody that I'm working with. And we talked about her time and where she's at, and it just wasn't realistic for her to get out of the house a couple times a day and go like to a BNI or anything like that. So we started with she had different team members in different areas of the country, and she really felt more comfortable because of her time to start doing things more online. And so we worked the bucket of, let's go back to customers. And I think a lot of times when we go to the customers that are already there, that's the closest in that bucket of the people you know or the people that they know, right? And then the people they know, because that strategy alone can be a self-fulfilling, if you do it consistently, that can be something that constantly fills up your list. So we started working on a plan to do online classes. And so she reached out to customers that were already she was very comfortable with, because she wasn't quite ready to jump back. She was actually like jumping back into things. So she was feeling stuck because it had been a little while. So we worked with customers that she already had pretty darn good relationships with. And so it was very comfortable for her to say, hey, look, I'm doing something new. I'm going to put together an online class. We're going to do some things and, of course, structure that out. And so now she has 10 people in 2 different classes invited. So look, that's 20 new leads in 2 weeks. And now the strategy comes into play with, you connect with those people, you make sure to have a solid follow-up strategy. And that was totally within her joy bucket, because she could easily have that common connection, and she feels really good about that. So that's another strategy. And of course, we have the different lead buckets, and we kind of go through inventory on what makes the most sense for working within their joy and their zone of genius. But those are two good examples.
What are the lead buckets, just for people maybe that haven't heard us teach on those before?
Yeah, so there's people you know, then there's social media and online. I would say, that there's so many different buckets within that social media bucket. There's people that you know, that they know, which would be your referrals or your group appointments.
Yep.
You've got networking events or speaking events that you go to. That can definitely be a nice funnel of leads. There's partnerships directly with other businesses. And then there's booths and vendor events.
Cool.
The 6 different buckets that we would focus in on. And that's, straight from what we teach here at Emerge.
Cool. And what you mentioned earlier when we were kind of getting ready for this call is how many buckets do you recommend that someone focus on at any given time?
So 2 to 3 max, because what we find in coaching is that you put in the work to work that strategy, and generally it really starts to take off in about 60 to 90 days. So we want to make sure that we're not spreading our focus too thin, because we can't do all the buckets all at the same time, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's also a maximization process. So if you go to a vendor event and it's the first one you've done in 2 years, we need to do a debrief, right? What went well, what didn't go well, and what adjustments would you make in order to do the next one? It's probably by the second or third or fourth vendor event that you're going to be like, okay, this went well. I think it's really important that people give themselves an opportunity to learn and correct when you're looking at lead generation. Okay, So let's wrap up. This is so good. And what you do when you do one-on-one coaching is you'll work with people personally based on what they like, their strengths, their gifts, right? What they know how to do and all that. Okay.
Yeah, maximize the zone of genius. Pulling out all the good things. And then of course, it's normal to feel a little uncomfortable when you're growing. So like growing the zone of genius, which is what I like to make sure to do, grow the confidence.
That's great. Okay, so tell me you're meeting new people for awkward people. What do you got?
Okay, all right. So what I find that works really well is starting at the point of origin. So when are we meeting new people? We're meeting new people. Well, I meet a lot of new people at the gym or like active events, or things like mixers, right? Now, people think, oh, I'm going to go to this networking event and everybody's going to network. But what actually happens at a lot of networking events? People are like over. Like people don't usually play on their phone, but like
most people are just as nervous as you,
right,
to meet new people.
So they're actually, yeah. Sorry if I glitched for a second there. But yeah, generally they're or they come there with a buddy, right, and then they stay in that place with their buddy. So one thing I really like to do in any of those situations is like, hey, start at the point of origin, like, hey, what brought you here today? Like, what you decide to come try CrossFit? What made you decide to start running? How long have you been running for? Or how long have you been going to this mixer? So start at point of origin always. It's the easiest way to gain some common ground.
Cool.
So that's like my pickup line. Not really.
You want to hear my pickup line?
Yeah, tell me, what's yours?
Hi, I'm Tasha. What's your name? And then I say nothing. Because then they'll probably fill the silence with awkward talk, and then I'm off the hook. I also will sometimes just go straight comedy routine and be like, hi, I'm Tasha, come here often, and pretend like it's a pickup line, and then they usually laugh. Do you have any other good pickup lines?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is you say that, and I'll generally find out a bunch of stuff from them before they even tell me their name. Then like 3, usually, now that you're mentioning that. sometimes I'll say like, I'm AJ and how are you? But, like, what's your name? But most of the time I'll be like, hey, is this your first time here? And find out a bunch of stuff. And then like 4 lines in, I'm like, my name's AJ. By the way, what's yours? So it is super funny to even think like most of the time when I'm connecting with people, I find out stuff about them before I find out their name. It just like totally opened my eyes right there. But that's okay. I think it's good either way. And I'd say the other thing that I generally like to do is, come here often. No, I don't do that, but that's awesome. I love that. I generally say like, all right, what do you do outside of this?
That's a good
What
one.
are your other things you do? Yeah. What do you do outside of this? So whether that's like activity, like what other activities do you do? Are you involved in any other, if I'm at a networking event, I'll be like, so is this your only gig, or do you go to other networking events? What other organizations are you part of? So, yeah.
See, I just go straight for it. I'm like, if this person becomes my new best friend, they're not someone new. It might be considered, so I might just go, hi, my name's Tasha. Have you found a place to sit? Would you like to sit with me? And then I'm not alone anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't have to meet anyone else. Is that not a good strategy?
You know what? I think it depends on the connection, right? Like you get start getting. I think it's more important. I like to meet 1 or 2 really good connections versus meeting a bunch of people. But what I do find that happens for me, if we're in a situation where more people can come in, like the other day, I met 5 people and all 5 of us had a really great conversation. And, it was like coffee after running. And so I think it's really cool to either meet 1 or 2 really good connections, or more than it is like to go. I'm not a fan of necessarily speed networking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're going out and meeting new people, it's really important to put your agenda down and just be a normal person, because that's what's going to build credibility. If you're going out to make contacts, you're probably going to come across in an inauthentic way. I found what helps me is to just take a deep breath before and say, you know what, people want to be included, and most people feel really, really lonely. So to take that kind of that same concept where, okay, so if I get my first person, hey, I will probably go up to the person who's more shy than me and just say, hey, it's nice to meet you. Do you have a place to sit? And maybe invite them. And then now you have strength in numbers where you can say, hey, would you like to join us? Mm-hmm. And then now you're meeting people, but not in a weird and awkward. I mean, maybe it's so weird or awkward, but what I've noticed is how much people love how refreshing weird and awkward is, because everyone feels that way.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one point that you just said that I think to add on to it is the mindset of going into a place not with an agenda in mind. And so going into a place to make a genuine connection of just like, hey, I'm here, and I'm more than willing to include people. But I do find that if you get yourself in the mindset of I'm actually relentlessly curious, and this is what's driven me in all my connections with people, I don't ever feel like I run out of people to connect with, ever. And I think the one thing that really drives that is the fact that I'm relentlessly curious about people, and I'm relentlessly curious about their story. And so that's actually something we talk about in our coaching sessions, like with my one-on-one clients, of like, this is how you can shift to understanding, like the whole purpose of actually meeting this person is not to sell them something, but it's to understand their story. And then if you hear a need, you jot that down and you make that something, because you know you're valuable. Every single one of my clients is super valuable. And when we understand that the curiosity can drive us and understanding people's story, then we have a place that we can actually serve somebody, right?
That's a much better agenda to learn someone's story than to get them as a contact. I love that. I think we probably need to wrap up here.
No, yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience while you have them?
I think I've shared everything that seems pertinent for this topic. I mean, there's so much more. There is so much more, and it could go way in depth. But for sake of the podcast, I think that we've gone definitely far enough into the two type of areas. And if this is something where you feel stuck, contact me. I'm willing to help you. And again, I would just be looking to find out what your story is to help serve you.
Awesome. I love that. Thanks, AJ, for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you.